Connecticut, Frogs at Wood, nice little story. Page, oh, did I mention? We do sell the books. I did mention that, didn't I? 25. My wife gets, if you do want to buy a book when you leave, I'll be happy to sign it, but the money goes to my wife.
Bring the book
And I
down to the
never
Red
see it
Rose, you
again.
get 2 cups of coffee, okay?
Okay. Any case, I will mention very briefly, go to page 40.
You're running out of time.
Yes.
Well, I'm very, very tired, so I'm,
Feel free to read. No, don't let me keep you, okay?
well, no, I'll wait. Sorry, I should not have said anything.
No, you should. I see some of the other people falling asleep. I just want to mention this because you're not far away from it. This is Bear Mountain, New York. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous place, and I have a great story I tell about that. I may skip the story and just tell you about the area. That's the Hudson River, of course, and we live about a half hour, 40 minutes from the Hudson River. Never appreciated just how gorgeous this area is until my daughter moved to Poughkeepsie, New York. And while she was there, we took the regular old Metro North train, the commuter train, down to Grand Central Station. The most beautiful train ride, one of the most beautiful train rides I've ever been on. We're train people. We've been across the United States on the California Zephyr. We've been on the Sky Chief that goes from Texas from California to New Orleans. Last year we took the train down to New Orleans from New York. We've been train tripping in Europe, been to the Alps on train, been trained up to the top of the Alps. With the exception of that train that went up to the top of the Alps, I haven't seen a better train trip than that regular old commuter train from Poughkeepsie to Grand Central Station. So if you ever happen to be heading east and you're on I-84, you cross the Beacon-Newburgh Bridge, stop off, if you have time, stop off at Beacon, get on the train, head down toward New York City. You don't have to go all the way. When you get into New York City, it's not quite as pretty. But take the train for an hour or so, and then head back if you want. Or take it. Grand Central's a nice place to visit anyway. But do yourself a favor and take a look at that trip. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous trip. And that actually has very little to do with the Book of the Walk, but I just had to tell you about that because it's such a great thing. I'll do 2 more things, and that's it. I really can't skip Pennsylvania because it illustrates the whole purpose of the book, believe it or not. If you look on page 49, now, before I started the trip, one of my co-workers who had lived in the Midwest said to me, when you get to the Midwest, you're going to find people are a lot different than they are here in cold, stuffy New England. And, and I didn't know what to make of that. But I found out that it was true. She said they'd be a lot more friendly. That's what she said. I've got to tell you that when I walked through Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, and New York, I had maybe 4 people stop and say, okay, do you need a lift? Is anything wrong, etc. When I got to Pennsylvania, I was having people stop every day. And by the time I got to the flat Midwest, I was having even more than that. But and it was the first time I really had a lot of people started walking with me, that sort of thing, in Pennsylvania. So in my mind, the Midwest, or at least the Midwest hospitality and the Midwest friendliness, starts in Pennsylvania. And I don't think anybody illustrates it better than this gentleman, page 49, Ray Sand. Met him in, I always have trouble pronouncing it because around our way it's always called Taconic, and it's not. How do you say it? Tunkhannock. I always get tongue-tied when I try to say it. I met him, and of course, I'm writing the stories for the newspaper, so I'm looking for interesting, colorful people, and he sure looked the part, and his truck sure looked the part. He had just about everything in the truck. There's a couple of paragraphs there, or at least a paragraph, just describing the stuff in the truck and what he uses. He has a purpose for everything in that truck. somebody thought that that's where he stayed and lived. No, he's got a use for everything in that truck. In any case, so I started to talk to him, hoping we'd get an interesting story out of it. And as we're talking, he said to me, where you coming from and what you doing and all that stuff. And, we said we're coming from, Massachusetts and we're going across the country. He said, well, how's the oil in your car? Travis and I don't have a mechanical bone in our body. So I said, well, I guess it's okay. And he said, well, when was the last time you checked it? Well, we left Massachusetts, of course. We hadn't checked the oil. So he said, you should check the oil in the car. And I said, okay, yeah, we'll check it tonight, tomorrow. He said, no, let's check it now. He went over, he checked the oil in our car. And it turns out it was just about empty. If we hadn't met Ray Sand on that trip, I wouldn't be here talking to you now because we'd have blown the engine somewhere in Pennsylvania or Ohio. Not only did he check the oil for us, he went over to his truck of all things, found the right oil for our car, and put oil in our car for us. Now that's the kind of friendliness you're never going to get in New England. Maybe not even in Toronto, I don't know. But certainly it struck me enough to write a picture. Okay, so that's that. I could do the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. That's really quick. Oh, let me tell you a real quick one about the Corn Man, and then I'll do the real final one. If you look on page 118, that's just a good picture by Travis. And then go to page 123. We're in Iowa. We're very quickly skipped through a whole bunch of states here. This guy is Roy Hand, and when I met him, he was 90-something years old. Inspirational. He had had his knee removed. And he was still out there working and happy to be working. He would go take his little old pickup truck and go to a farm in the morning, pick up a load of corn, and bring it to his corner where he had been for decades in, what's the city, Des Moines, Iowa, and sell it until he's out of corn. And of course, I'd been a reporter for a long time, so when you meet somebody who's over 90 years old, you always have to ask them, what's your secret to a long life? And I would give you Roy Hand's secret to a long life. Don't blame me if you don't like these things. This is his secrets to a long life. I'm going to give it to you like David Letterman in the form of a list, except backwards and there's only 4. Roy Hand's 4 secrets to a long life. Drink lots of milk. He drinks about 4 gallons of raw milk a week. Number 3, stay out of the beer parlors. Number 2, don't smoke. And Roy Hand's number 1 secret to a long life, stay single. Don't blame me. Okay, I'm at a little bit of a loss to pick a lost story. This is the most important story in the book in my mind, Mighty Ogallala, because it talks about how the Midwest is going to change, and they're not going to have water in the Midwest if not within our lifetime, probably within our children's lifetime. So it's going to change all of that breadbasket of the world that we think it is now. Pioneer Village is one of my very favorite places. Glenwood Canyon is. I don't tell a good story about it. So it's between Death Valley and Mirage. I think I'll take Mirage. Page 202. We're actually back on that loneliest road. This is about 30 miles west of Delta. Remember, the loneliest road started at Delta. This is the last story, bear with me. I was walking along the highway there, and I looked and I saw this huge lake. You can see the picture. It's 27 miles wide. And I'm wondering why the heck the people of Delta, Utah didn't tell me there's this big lake called Lake Sevier in the middle of the desert. And then you can see that if you look on the side of the picture, you can see there's some road. There's a road that kind of goes down toward the lake and then it comes back a little bit. You can see the road anyway. And some portions it goes down toward the lake and then it comes back. Mostly it parallels the lake. And as I was walking toward the lake would kind of retreat. And then as I was walking away from the lake, and I looked back, and it had come back again. Now, I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but I knew this was unusual. And after I'd been through that a few times, I figured it out. This is not a lake, this is a mirage. Now, I had always thought a mirage was this guy in a movie crawling through the desert, peeking over the top of a dune and seeing water. And then he rubs his eyes and he looks again and it's gone. Well, no, this mirage is there permanently, every day. And it is extremely convincing. This is how convincing it was. Because we're on the loneliest road, once I'd gotten past there, I got to the end of my 20 miles for the day, and Travis came, picked me up, and we had to go back because there's no place to stay in front of us. So we went back to Delta, Utah, and as we're going by the lake, happened to mention to Travis, that's not a real lake, right? And he looks at it because he didn't have the benefit of walking and seeing the lake go and come. He said, no, it's not. I said, look at it. It's a real lake. And I said, yes, it is. I mean, no, it's not. And he said, yes, it is. Yes, it is. No, it's not. Yes, it is. No, it's not. And of course, we're two guys, so we couldn't just leave it. I have my opinion and you have yours. We had to get out of the car, walk down, and check to see whether it's water there. And and I got to tell you, when I was starting to walk down, I was having second thoughts too. But yes, in fact, it really was a mirage. And it's interesting, to see how it got there. The story actually starts more than 35,000 years ago, when this whole area of Utah was covered by an inland sea, we call it Great Bonneville Lake. About 32,000 years ago, a natural dam at the northern end of the lake broke, and the lake began to recede and recede and recede until there were only a few puddles left. One of those puddles is still there. It's called the Great Salt Lake. And then there's another one called Lake Utah right nearby. They are still receding. Eventually, they will go away. And that's what happened to Lake Sevier. 100 years ago, Lake Sevier was, in fact, a real lake. It dried up. And as these lakes get smaller and smaller, the minerals and salts get more and more condensed. And then when the lake finally disappears, the minerals and salts wind up on the soil, and you've got your mirage. And the reason that people in Delta didn't tell me about this big mirage is because there's lots of them out there. This is a particularly large one, but you can be driving out there and you'll see lots of little mirages. It must have been really, really frustrating for the pioneers coming across, needing water, and seeing this thing and not knowing whether it's really water or not water. And I'll tell you one other thing about that, which I think is, I forgot what the other thing was. Oh, I know. It's every once in a while, about once every 25 years, they'll have a really rainy year out there, and that lake will fill up again and become a real lake and dry up. And I've got lots more stories I could tell you, and I'm certainly open to questions, but I don't want to keep people here, so we'll call it quits for now, I think.
Super.
Any questions? I have just one question for you. You walked all the way out there. Did you ever think about walking back?
After 1 second. No. But I'll tell you what, if you'd like to do that trip the other way, I'll be happy to go with you. I'll be the one in the car.
Thank you.